Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Go Premanande, Jaya Om Vishnupad Brahmamsa Parivrajacharya, Astotra Sota Shishmadesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Jaya Om Vishnupad Brahmamsa Parivrajacharya, Astotra Sota Shishima Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Prabhupada Ki, Grantarat Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from the fourth canto, chapter 25, text 39. Dharmo hyatrarthat kamaucha. Dharmo hyatrartha kamaucha. Prajanando mritam yasha. Prajanando mritam yasha. Loka vishoka viraja. Loka vishoka viraja. Yana kevalino vidu. Yana kevalino vidu. Dharmo hyatrarthat kamaucha. Prajanando mritam yasa. Loka vishoka viraja. Yana kevalino vidu. Dharmo hyatrartha kamaucha. Prajanando mritam yasa. Loka vishoka viraja. Yana kevalino vidu. Please.
Dhammo hyatrartha kamaucha.
Dhammo hyatrartha kamaucha.
Prajanando mritam yasha.
Prajanando mritam yasha.
Loka vishoka viraja.
Loka vishoka viraja.
Yana kevalino vidu.
Yana kevalino vidu. Dhammo hyatrartha kamaucha.
Dhammo hyatrartha kamaucha.
Prajanando mritam yasha.
Prajanando mritam yasha.
Loka vishoka viraja.
Loka vishoka viraja.
Yana kevalino vidu.
Yana kevalino vidu.
Dhammo hyatrartha kamaucha. Prajanando mritam yasha.
Loka vishoka viraja.
Yana kevalino vidu.
Dharmaha, religious ritual. He certainly atra here in this Grihastha ashram or household life. Artha, economic development. Kama, sense gratification. Cha, end. Praja anandaha, the pleasure of generations. Amritam, the results of sacrifice. Yashaha, reputation. Lokaha, planetary systems. Vishokaha, without lamentation. Virajaha, without disease. Yan, which. Na, never. Kevalinaha, the transcendentalist. Viduhu, no. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The woman continued, in this material world, a householder's life brings all kinds of happiness in religion, economic development, sense gratification, and the begetting of children, sons and grandsons. After that, one may desire liberation as well as material reputation. The householder can appreciate the results of sacrifices which enable him to gain promotion to the superior planetary systems. All this material happiness is practically unknown to the transcendentalists. They cannot even imagine such happiness. Purport. According to Vedic instruction, there are two paths for human activities. One is called Pravritti Marg, and the other is called Nivritti Marg. The basic principle for either of these paths is religious life. In animal life, there is only Pravritti Marg. Pravritti Marg means sense enjoyment, and Nivritti Marg means spiritual advancement. In the life of animals and demons, there is no conception of Nivritti Marg, nor is there any actual conception of Pravritti Marg. Pravritti Marg maintains that even though one has the propensity for sense gratification, he can gratify his senses according to the directions of the Vedic injunctions. For example, everyone has the propensity for sex life, but in demoniac civilization, sex is enjoyed without restriction. According to Vedic culture, sex is enjoyed under Vedic instructions. Thus, the Vedas give direction to civilized human beings to enable them to satisfy their propensities for sense gratification. In the Nivritti Marg, however, on the path of transcendental realization, sex is completely forbidden. The social orders are divided into 4 parts: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. And only in the householder life can the Pravritti Marg be encouraged or accepted according to Vedic instructions. In the orders of Brahmacharya, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas, there are no facilities for sex. In this verse, the woman is advocating Pravritti Marg only and is discouraging the path of Nivritti Marg. She clearly says that the yatis, the transcendentalists, who are concerned only with spiritual life, kaivalya, cannot imagine the happiness of Pravritti Marg. In other words, the man who follows the Vedic principles enjoys the materialistic way of life, not only by becoming happy in this life, but also in the next life by being promoted to the heavenly planets. In this life, such a person gets all kinds of material opulences, such as sons and grandsons, because he is always engaged in various religious functions. The material distresses are birth, old age, disease, and death. But those who are interested in Pravritti Marg hold various religious functions at the time of birth, old age, disease, and death. Without caring for the distresses of birth, old age, disease, and death, they are addicted to performing the special functions according to the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. Factually, however, Pravritti Marg is based on sex life. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.9.45, Yan Maitunadi Grihamedi Sukham Hitucham. A householder who is too much addicted to Pravritti Marg is actually called a Grihamedi, not a Grihastha. Although the Grihastha desires sense gratification, he acts according to Vedic instructions. The Grihamedi, however, who is interested only in sense gratification, does not follow any Vedic instructions. The Grihamedi engages himself as an advocate of sex life and also allows his sons and daughters to engage in sex and to be deprived of any glorious end in life. A Grihastha enjoys sex life in this life as well as in the next. As well as in the next. But the Grihamedi does not know what the next life is about because he is simply interested in sex in this life. On the whole, when one is too much inclined towards sex, he does not care for the transcendental spiritual life. In this age of Kali, especially, no one is interested in spiritual advancement, even though it is sometimes found that one may be interested in spiritual advancement. He is most likely to accept a bogus method of spiritual life, being misguided by so many pretenders. Hare Krishna. What a purport. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tatati Svapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Chagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to say something hopefully useful. And please give me your blessings that I may say something useful and not offend anyone. I read again the verse. The woman continued, in this material world, a householder's life brings all kinds of happiness in religion, economic development, sense gratification, and the begetting of children, sons and grandsons. After that, one may desire liberation as well as material reputation. The householder can appreciate the results of sacrifices which enable him to gain promotion to superior planetary systems. All this material happiness is practically unknown to the transcendentalists. They cannot even imagine such happiness. In this verse, this woman speaks to King Puranjana. And she is not only seducing King Puranjana by her bodily features, but also by very flowery language of the Vedas. Actually, this is quite unusual that a woman, if she wants to seduce someone, speaks Shastra. And she speaks Shastra. Shastras, most part of the Shastras are about Karma Kanda, the elevation of the heavenly planet. And she gives the formula, how this works. And she speaks freely, very freely about her desires. It's not like just a one-night stand or something like that. No, she speaks about living a righteous life, a religious life, and at the end being elevated to the heavenly planets. She says happiness, all kinds of happiness in religion, economic development, sense gratification. If we follow religion, if we follow Dharma, artha comes automatically. It's quite natural. But artha only comes if we follow Dharma. So it is very systematically, very scientifically process that to follow religion leads to economic development, leads to artha, leads to a happy life and all kinds of material enjoyments. It's like, it can be compared with if you have a pot with water and you put the pot on the fire, the water will boil. You don't have to act. You don't have to do anything else. You just put the pot of water on the fire and it will boil. But in the West or in different ideas and ideologies and religions, people have the impressions, no, the water will boil without putting the pot on the fire. Just because I want it to boil, but it doesn't boil. It is a strict law that the water only boils if you put it on the fire. And that we can see in history. For example, Western history. If we want to know what doesn't work, we can read Western history. And hopefully we do not repeat what is written there. And if you want to know what works, you should study the Srimad Bhagavatam. But this works. So this example can be used for Dharma and Artha. If we follow the right process, then automatically all kinds of happiness will come. All kinds of, and actually, not only happiness, because happiness is just a byproduct. Happiness is a byproduct, is an indication of God that we are doing something right. But we become closer to our environment, to all the people around us in relation to us. And most important, we become closer to God. Because this is the way of God. This is the way Krishna designed the material world. And if we follow, we will be elevated. For example, if man and woman live together and she performs her duty, he performs his duty, and they are very careful in performing their duties. And ultimately, they develop a very strong bond. And this bond is called love. Love is not the feeling that we have in the beginning, becoming to live in close contact with each other, which evaporates after a few weeks. Love is a deep respect for each other, and also a strong trust that we have towards each other, ultimately to become one mind and one heart in two bodies. So all this is a result of following Dharma, following the rules, following what works. And then, of course, are the this leads to not feeling, what is the name? My English is too bad, I'm sorry. Huh? You know, yeah, I mean, which includes sense gratification. Sense gratification doesn't include emotions. Emotions was the word. But emotions include sense gratification. Not necessarily, but it is a higher principle of relationship. So if we follow Dharma, this is addressing the emotions. So Prabhupada in his purport, he gives us a lot. He gives us a lot. He speaks about pravritti marg and nivritti marg. Pravritti marg is for the karmis. They act because they want some result. And finally they want to be elevated to the heavenly planets. If they don't get any result, they don't act. These are the karmis. And the jnanis with the nivritti marg, they don't act because they don't want any result. So they just don't act. But we have to act in a relationship, or in a relationship with nature, in a relationship with God. It is necessary to act, but it is necessary to act proper, to become purified. And the more we become purified, we understand, the more we understand who we are, ourselves, and can act according to our nature. So the secret is to act, but not for a result. Of course, the result will come. There is no doubt about it, because Dharma leads to Artha. So we don't have to worry about the results. They will come, for sure. We have to worry about being very carefully acting to the religious principles, to our nature, according to our nature. And this purifies us. And the more we become purified, the more we understand our own nature, our relationship with anybody else, our relationship with God. And we act to please God, not to please ourselves, but to please God or to please someone else. So Krishna is, on many occasions in the Bhagavad Gita, speaking about acting without hankering the fruits. It is said that we have the right to perform the action, but we are not inclined to the fruits. And we should just act to please someone. So the karmis, they don't know this concept, to act not for a result. And the jnanis, they also don't know this concept, because otherwise they would act, they would do something. You cannot just sit here and or Om Mani Padme Hum or whatever. Because this is only Sat, existence. Chit is action. In the Vedic scriptures is said, Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana. So we have to know our relationship. We have to know, first of all, we have to know ourselves. Then we have to know anybody else, just like ourselves. And we have to know we are all a spark, a little spark of God. That's what we are, 10,000 tip of a hair. So, actually, nothing to be proud about, but just something beautiful. A spark of God. That's what we are. So, and if we act to please the whole, to please the source, to please Krishna, then it's much higher. Of course, the woman here, she speaks about material happiness is unknown to the transcendentalist. Yes, that's true. But we speak about spiritual happiness. This is completely in another realm. So she says, economic development, sense gratification, and the begetting of children, sons and grandsons. Usually a wife is very happy if she has children who also have children, and so on and so forth. And after that, one may desire liberation. And she speaks, the householder can appreciate the results of sacrifices. What are these sacrifices? Sacrifices are just to act according to one's nature. This is already a sacrifice. To know who we are and what is our relationship to anybody else and what is our relationship to God, and to act accordingly. This leads to prayojana. This leads to spiritual happiness. And yeah, she's very religious. And it is true. It is said also in the scriptures that the householder is on the safe side because his senses are protected from the wife. There are some nice verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 3rd canto. There, Diti speaks to Kashyapa Muni, as one can cross over the ocean with sea-going vessels, one can cross the dangerous situation of the material ocean by living with a wife. And further she says, O respectful one, a wife is so helpful that she is called the better half of a man's body because of her sharing in all auspicious activities. A man can move without anxiety, entrusting all responsibilities to his wife. But therefore it is necessary to act according to Dharma, according to one's nature. Otherwise, the better half may become the bitter half. And the relationship becomes very disturbed. And further she says, as a fort commander very easily conquers invading plunderers by taking shelter of a wife, one can conquer the senses which are unconquerable in the other social orders. It's very interesting. She's compared to a fortress which saves the senses of the man by invading plunderers. The invading plunderers are these occasions to engage in sense gratification. It is said it is very difficult to give up material sense objects or material desires. But Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, at least it is possible. It is very difficult, but possible. But to gratify material desires, to fulfill material desires, is impossible. So you have two options here. Either to act according to do something which is very difficult but possible, or to do something which is impossible. Just if we understand that we belong to God and He is taking care of us. That's very important to understand, that God is taking care of us. Prabhupada once said to his disciples, you have to look that all the brahmacharinis are getting married and that all the brahmacharis are staying celibate, being unmarried. And the disciples asked Prabhupada, how is that possible? That's your business, he said. It is very dangerous. This is actually, Prabhupada mentions this also in the purport. He mentions the Grihamedi and in comparison to the Grihastha, if one becomes too much attached to sex life, one cannot be called a Grihastha, because a Grihastha is living after very strict rules. And he says, where is that? Something like, if we are too inclined to sex, we are depriving us of a glorious end. Here it is. Be deprived of any glorious end in life. That means what this wife here describes is pious, but it leads to an unglorious end, because we are not liberated from the cycle of birth and death. Prabhupada said once, be very careful not to come to the heavenly planets, not to go to the heavenly planets. And he said also, most of my disciples will go to the heavenly planets. Why? Because they want to. We have to understand that one moment in the heavenly planets is the Kali Yuga goes on, and if we come back, it might be much more difficult. And it is sure that we come back. It is very, very certain. Just to live a pious life, we have to transcend piousness. And there are also some statements in the Shastras about Jiva Goswami mentions, for example, this dangerous situation. On one side, of course, the wife is the fortress in the Grihastha ashram. But to fall victim to one's material desires and to act according to just Grihamedi, we have been addicted to material enjoyment since time immemorial. And Chanakya Pandit says, for example, a young, beautiful woman is an enemy, he says. Why she's an enemy? Because she bewilders the man's intelligence. And so he cannot focus on what is really important. So to indulge, it it is very, we have to be very careful. It is also said, who is enjoying the woman the most? It is the sannyasi. Why? Because he has nothing to do with them. And that's, yeah. Like this, it is also it is a dangerous path. We are always in danger. And I have some statements here. Maybe it's appropriate, maybe not, I don't know. Cupid, for example, Cupid himself, he says, "The body of a woman is my abode. I will always reside in it. By residing in her body, I destroy the consciousness of every man. Of this there is no doubt." Cupid says that. And in the Manu Samhita it is stated, it is the nature of a woman, her inherent quality, her svabhav, to bewilder a man, make him impure, and put him in illusion. Therefore, learned persons should be very careful in dealings with women. Even great sages become attached and crazy through the behavior of a woman. I mean, we have many examples that this is true. Like Vishwamitra, he was meditating for, I don't know, hundreds or thousands of years, and just the ankle bells make him fall down. Ankle bells of Menaka, I think. So it is very difficult to conduct oneself. And we have to read Srimad Bhagavatam to be aware what works and what doesn't work. So Srimad Bhagavatam works, and Srimad Bhagavatam gives us all kinds of higher tastes. I have a few more from these verses, for example, this. Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, "The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them." And Prahlad Maharaj speaks to Nishingadev. Sex life is compared, this is mentioned in the purport from Prabhupada, this 7.9.45. Sex life is compared to the rubbing of two hands to relieve an itch. Grihamedis, so-called Grihashtas, who have no spiritual knowledge, think that this itching is the greatest platform of happiness, although actually it is a source of distress. The Kripanas, the fools who are just the opposite of Brahmanas, are not satisfied by repeated sensuous enjoyment. Those who are dhira, however, who are sober, and who tolerate this itching are not subjected to the sufferings of fools and rascals. Actually, the itching of two hands, the rubbing of two hands has nothing special. It is not. But because we have a special concept in our mind, we have something, this desire for sense gratification, this rubbing becomes very exciting. But we have to see how it is. We have to always, every day, we can choose towards what we're gonna do, what we want actually. We want become closer to God. If we want real love, actual love, and to be happy forever, then we study very carefully the Srimad Bhagavatam, because the Srimad Bhagavatam is about us. It is not about watching a Barishat or King Puranjana or I don't know, whoever. Srimad Bhagavatam is about us. And our propensity in our mind, our inclinations. So we have to understand